There we go. We're live.
Hello.
You're on.
All right.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
We are live. So that's really cool. I always like being live, I must admit. Anyway, so welcome to the first show, which is the PhoenixUK show. We're going to be going over various different esports over the course of this show. I will apologise in advance for my crappy camera. It means I'm going to actually have to invest in a new camera today, which is really, really gay. Tonight we'll be going over various different topics for you, which will include League of Legends, CSGO, and I can see a flying Epic LAN thing over the video. Do you mind, Soddy? You're supposed to be Mr. Production.
I'm figuring certain things out. When one of those things is don't move things onto the monitor which it's capturing. It's gonna be one to remember. So don't drag anything. Is this
why you need a dual monitor setup?
No, that's what I have, but I have to be careful not to drag anything too far to the left, which is what I accidentally did. But I have learnt that now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, so tonight we'll be going over some different topics in League of Legends, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, Dota 2. We'll also be including a bit of Hearthstone, some FIFA, perhaps various other sort of esports. The whole aim of this show is to sort of promote UK esports in the correct light, and make it so that UK esports can actually grow, I suppose. There is a gap in the market between all the other various gaming talk shows that are out there, like By the Numbers and Alpha, whatever. But there is a gap where no one actually features UK esports. So obviously this will be a weekly thing, and we'll have my regular panelists who are Sonny, Harold, Neil. He's the man in charge of the stream tonight. Yeah, and also my established colleague at Perilous Gaming. Well, you are an established figure in the scene, aren't you? So yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I guess.
So
not quite as established as yourself, though.
What are you trying to say, that I'm a bigger deal than you? Because I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah, you're kind of big, a big deal. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, so it's Michael Mick Hartley, and he'll be joining us for the League of Legends side of it and Dota 2 specifically today. And it's just going to be general fun and a bit of banter, with also a lot of topics that we'll be going over throughout the evening. Just to give everyone a sort of a vibe of what topics we'll actually be going over today. In League of Legends, we'll be going over the UK Premiership qualifiers from the last month, the fact that the contracts are now becoming a thing in League of Legends, and there is potential for buyouts of UK Premiership spots for organisations because of the fact that the League of Legends UK Premiership side of it gives a Challenger Series spot now, which is a really cool thing for ESL UK. In CSGO, we'll be going over things like the minor championship qualifiers over the last month for Europe. We'll be going over Def's move to North America and joining Complexity. We'll also be going over some of the roster shuffles from December and sort of how the teams have sort of established themselves over the course of the last month. And we'll also be going over Operation Kingwin with FM Esports and Nerd Rage, and seeing how well they're actually doing right now. In Dota 2, there isn't much going on in the UK scene specifically for Dota 2, but there are various different leagues and competitions that are going on, which will include the Join Dota League, and also we'll be discussing sort of a variable topic of why the scene currently in Dota 2 is reluctant to becoming bigger, or whether there's actually potential for it to get bigger. Obviously, with the upcoming Epic LAN in a couple of weeks' time, there is only 6 teams, I think, signed up for Epic LAN for the Dota 2 side of it. So obviously we wanted to go over that. But we'll go over that in greater detail next week. And the final sort of subject we'll be sort of talking about is all the other kind of esports. And I did pick out one this week, which was actually featured on the BBC this week, which was Wolfsburg enter the realm of esports and acquisition of a UK FIFA player. And that sort of ties in with Def's move to the North America, and we'll also be sort of touching on that, and whether other players or other potential teams may actually take the move abroad. If you want to get involved today, then do tweet out hashtag PhoenixUK, and we'll capture all your tweets and we'll use it as a discussion point, I suppose. So, guys, how are we feeling today?
All right, I guess. Yeah, it's a weekend, so
Are
it's
you feeling
time off work.
energetic?
Of course, just like the UK scene, we're full of life and prosperity, and it's all good. No, it's fun. Looking forward to kind of talking about some of the things that are going on.
And Sonny, how do you feel today, mate?
I'm feeling a little bit weary of where I click at the moment. I like to fiddle when I talk with just general things on my desk, and I feel like I don't want to press anything that's going to open anything.
Well, that could be a bit awkward if I
could.
saw some kind of pornography.
Well,
yeah, especially if you're fiddling.
Yeah. Well, I need it while I'm fiddling, but hopefully that's not going to be popping up at any time soon. And I'm careful because I like pulling my keycaps on and off, like just pull it off, put it back on. But I don't want it to. I don't know what could happen. Like I'm not going to take the risk, to be honest.
I don't think you should take the risk.
I'm not
boys,
planning on it.
We're going to go into League of Legends first. So Mick, you're the sort of expert on League of Legends scene, and because you know UK League of Legends. So do tell me what's been going on roughly in the qualifiers. I know Perilous had a couple of teams in the qualifiers recently. Did we actually qualify? I haven't really kept up with it.
No, well, I think the guys that are still kind of trying to get their feet as far as our point of view is, and it's difficult, especially now with obviously the bigger teams coming in. We've got obviously Renegades who have got the UK team. They'd heard it in the background from Riot that this Challenger Series spot was coming, so then they had a team before it was even announced. I mean, it seems like the logical move, because if you consider how Dig EU was sold for however much it was, million rumoured. But so if they can get a UK team in, get them qualifying, maybe it's easy money, really. But Mana Light as well have just come in, and they're strong. So it's strange, it's difficult, and yeah, it's those who you would be expected to be at the top of the qualifying at the minute are.
One thing that surprised me actually about League of Legends, as far as British was concerned, as far as the UK scene, was I was watching. I don't know if you saw the BBC Three documentary about super gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, which had I think I can't remember the name now. It was something like that.
Impaler was on there.
Yeah, it was an Impaler, and there was also a player for H2K.
Kissing.
Yeah, that's the one, playing for a UK team. And I thought, there's zero UK players out there, but I'm surprised actually.
Well,
yeah,
Impaler's been out there for a while now, hasn't he? Because he's been in various different teams over the last few years in the top end of League of Legends, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, obviously, he's kind of trying to find his feet as well at the minute, from what I gather, and trying to find something that'll work. But yeah, like Kasing's up there now, and regarded as kind of a good player. He is fantastic. It'll be interesting to see a couple more UK players in the Challenger Series. We'll have like Max Law, who's participating in there as kind of the sole UK guy at the minute as well, from what I gather. But I don't know. It's difficult. Like it's strange because there are players that do have the talent, and I think now we're just going to kind of start and see is because for whatever reason we're trying like 5 UK players to make a good team, and it's never like worked. But now because of kind of the opportunities that are existing, a lot of the good teams now are going to be 3 UK players, so they can play in the ESL Premiership and a couple of foreign imports. But it should, in theory, I mean, should your nationality matter in terms of wanting to become pro? Do you need to be on a team with other nationals? It doesn't really make much sense anyway. But yeah, obviously, it depends how you look at it. It's obviously easier for the UK events to have 5 Brits or whatever, but yeah, certainly when there's a Challenger Series spot, just get the best team you can.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose from an organisational standpoint, having 5 from the same nation is
Yeah,
easier than having 3 from the UK and then 2 more from different parts of Europe. It's probably easier for an organisation standpoint, but for a team, you want the best players you possibly could get, and as long as you're complying by the rules of the certain leagues, like the UK Premiership is 3 players from national born or sort of residency, then obviously it's not really a massive kind of problem. You want to have the best team to actually compete at the best level. Um,
Just going to say the one thing about nationality that I think with League of Legends specifically makes it a lot less important is if you do get that challenger slot, you're all going to Berlin anyway. So it's not like you're going to have to be communicating across or all different countries. You're all going to be in the same place eventually if you get that slot. So that's when it comes down to it.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I suppose it's just like any other team game, and we're always going to kind of look back to sports, and it's the same as everything. Like in theory, if we want them to be kind of be pros, and that's the ultimate goal for these guys to be professional players, and if they're getting paid a professional salary, they should be kind of located and kind of individually anyway, shouldn't they? And it shouldn't really matter. It's just like any other sport. Footballers move around all the time for the opportunities of the team. They have like a home base. So if you're at the pro level, it certainly doesn't matter. But I suppose the gap's just so big from the pros now to kind of the rest. Because even when we're talking about salaries now, they're not salaries, they're kind of like 50, 100 quid each per player per month,
Yeah,
it's pocket money at the end of the day. But yeah, nationality shouldn't really matter. But yeah, obviously for the smaller events, it's just ease, like you say, organisation. But hopefully we can kind of see. So that's why it'll be good for people like Max Law, who are as like an individual UK player, can hopefully get the opportunities and start moving out there, like Casting has, like Imperial has in the past, and is still looking to do. But yeah, ESL Premiership, I suppose, for that, and it being 3-2 is kind of the next stepping stone in between. I think to getting better teams and seeing more UK players out there. It would be nice to have a team of 5, but I just don't think it's realistic right now.
yeah, that's true. Swinging on to the sort of the qualifier number 1, Renegades came through that. How did Renegades come to be? I mean, Renegades are a Los Angeles organization, aren't they? So why are they suddenly investing in a UK team? And I know they were sort of involved in the Challenger series, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I can only assume that they caught wind of the fact that a Challenger Series spot was going to be available to the winner of the UK Premiership.
Yeah.
And again, it's just a business move for them. I assume that they don't have any kind of hope for flying the UK flag. I assume it's purely business. That is how I look at it. That's how I see it. I may be wrong, but I just feel like it's a whole business thing. If they do get the spot, it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
And yeah, for probably the cheap amount that they're getting away with paying right now, it's probably worth a punt, let's say. And they have got some of the best players the UK have to offer in that team as well. I mean, it's not like they've just picked up a random UK team. They've picked up the team who will definitely qualify, likely, and definitely challenge to win the UK Premiership and get that spot. There's a handful of teams, and they picked the right one.
Fair enough. See, there was quite a few different universities that were involved. Obviously, the Newell is a massive kind of thing in League of Legends. So if anyone doesn't know the Newell is the university league of eSports and stuff like that. It's kind of a society that's built into universities, which is actually a really cool thing to see universities sort of pick up and actually do something really structured in it. In the first qualifier, there was quite a few different university teams in there. There was University of Birmingham, there was University of Exeter were in there. That's a local one to me. Thank you very much, Exeter. And then there was a Welsh university in there, which obviously I can't really pronounce it. But, that's
Yeah. Begins with an A and has the rest of the alphabet in there somewhere.
I don't really want to sound like an idiot when pulling off those kind of pronunciations, so obviously. And I see that University of Birmingham were also in there, and they knocked out a perilous team. So
Yes.
I don't like them, obviously, right now. But the growth of university sort of esports side of it is actually really, really good to see. And a lot of talk over the last 3 to 6 months in the League of Legends community, certainly talk I've picked up on Twitter, and people that I follow, Keys and Tundra, have all spoken about how the Newell has sort of been the death of their sort of scene, because a lot more people tend to play in their university teams and dedicate time to their university teams instead of actually dedicating time to a proper team. Are university teams proper teams? Do we want to cover that?
I suppose, from my point of view, just what we've been talking about, organisational, having 5 people at the same uni who've got that time to get together and actually do more than have more opportunities than what other people have.
Yeah.
Plus, with the backing of the university, I suppose, I think it's good. I don't like it in certain circumstances where there's been a kind of spots in certain competitions given from their league, because they can join all the open tournaments, but then obviously all the other teams can't join the kind of university specific ones. So I don't feel like they should ever get a qualifier or anything that everyone else is trying to get, if you get what I'm saying. But yeah, other than that, I think it's a really good thing. It's grassroots at the end of the day. It's just like, these types of things normally are better, kind of bigger in America, how they do sports, and it should. They had 300 teams or something in a league.
Yeah.
That's what's the most that teams that we've had at a UK event. I think we've had about 90 before.
Yeah.
And where have all them gone? It's not the university's fault that now we can't actually get more than 5 teams to a UK LAN. It's the players who have moved on, the players who want bigger and better things, who are now playing in European teams. That's kind of why there's less kind of core teams now. But yeah, the university is a good thing by all accounts. Their approach seems to be a little bit better than some of the teams as well. They're like the mindset, they actually take it a little bit more serious, and kind of like a sport, like a club with a coach and someone to help them out. And yeah, I think it's really good.
Yeah, I suppose university esports, it's a sort of double-edged sword, isn't it, really? Because obviously they're all at, if you've got 5 players and they're all at university, or if you've got 10 players, for example, you can get 2 teams out of it. But you're all at the same university, so it's easier for you to devote a term on sort of, helping each other out on League of Legends and practicing. Whereas with an actual team, if you've got that outside of university, you don't really get to spend that much time with them, because you're obviously looking at your university team, and it's very difficult to devote your time equally between the 2 teams if you have 2 teams. So I suppose it is a double-edged sword, really. It's a positive thing. It's also a negative thing for event participation, as you said. Obviously, the decline in League of Legends has been one of massive proportions in the UK sort of side of it. That sort of led to us dropping it last year. We decided for Epic 16 that we would drop it completely. It wasn't just the decline of UK sort of League of Legends, it was the fact that there was other sort of mitigating circumstances as well, like the fact that iSeries was only 4 weeks in front of ours for the October event, so it was a shorter turnaround for sort of teams who were going to I series, which is I-55, to come to Epic 16, it would just not have happened. So, you know, there was other sort of circumstances as well. So, UK Premiership League of Legends qualifiers are ongoing at the moment. What's the current prize pool of the actual tournament, Mick? Do you know?
I'm not actually sure off the top of my head, if I'm honest.
I'm pretty sure it's 10,500.
I think it's roughly around the 10 mark. But it's kind of split between like qualifiers and kind of the eventual winner prize pool as well. I think there's a chance of kind of earning some of it over time rather than it just being kind of top 4 get this split between them, which is better, I think, as well. Obviously.
What have you got on in the background?
I don't know.
There's some kind of piano playing. Is there a piano playing? Is that just me?
Give me a sec.
Or is that Sonny?
No, not me. I am way too uncultured to have a piano.
Now we're going to have Mick just sort of disappear and talk to someone because, you know, that's Mick.
Or go and play the piano as well, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting in a hotel lobby, you see, that's what it is.
Yeah.
A hotel lobby, yeah,
No,
of course.
I'm just in my room, my grand piano, and I've got my servant playing the piano to me.
Elton John.
The dirty eSports money that I've been making.
Yeah, you got that playing, right. So anyway, yeah, we were talking about UK League of Legends. That's really thrown me now. I think it's 10,500 if I remember correctly. I pretty much saw it was a £10,500 season, which if they are going to split League of Legends and CSGO exactly the same, we'll be expecting that at some point. Hopefully, Peter, if you're watching this, you know, perhaps announce it sometime. So yeah. So, Sonny, do you have any sort of thoughts on League of Legends as a whole? In the UK, anyway.
Oh, I was just going to say it was inferior to CS, but...
Are you playing up to the Twitch player?
No. We're on the same side there. You know, they're backing me up. That's all. No, I don't. To be honest, I am. I'm relatively ignorant as far as League of Legends goes, so I'm quite happy to let the experts do the talking.
Well, you say experts.
Well,
I'm not really
compared to me. Yeah.
We should at least get one on. Yeah, we may do it in future weeks. We actually will cover League of Legends because obviously with I-57 up in March, then we get a great chance to sort of talk about League of Legends in a really positive light. So we will actually have a few guests from the League of Legends community, and I'll actually pimp it in the League of Legends community as well, specifically. If you do want to get involved, obviously, with the show today, don't forget to hashtag PhoenixUK if you're on Twitter. Do get your points in. Obviously, talk to us on the Twitch chat as well, because we can actually see that. I don't know. Am I watching that? No. Someone's told me to clean my room. Why would you tell me to clean my room? It's perfectly clean. I don't know why you're talking about that. Anyway, so the next subject on sort of League of Legends, and it's kind of one that I really actually want to talk to everyone about, because I feel that this should be something in CSGO and it isn't in CSGO, and I'm just kind of interested in why this has actually happened in League of Legends quicker than CSGO, considering the two scenes are, you know, there's a massive disparity between the two scenes. You know, CSGO is growing, it's out there at the moment, whereas League of Legends is not. So, contracts, and there's actually professional contracts, salaried players in UK League of Legends at the moment. Do we know anything about that? You did link me something earlier, didn't you, Mick?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's steps forward in the right direction, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, I've not kind of had any sight of any of these contracts or anything. But my kind of thought on it is what approach to taking, because surely the players must only be seen as contractors rather than employees, because, like, again, going back to the salaries comment I made earlier, they're not salaries. It's pocket money, you know, from what I gather. I mean, what would a minimum wage salary be? Kind of this day and age, it's just not what I would define as a salary. But yeah, it's making that next step. The one thing that I will say in terms of it is I think a lot of people are assuming that they deserve it, and a lot of people don't really do much other than turn up and play games. I've had many requests before of people just want money in their lap to go to one event with a mixed team, tell me that they're going to win it, and then they're kind of not really doing much in terms of exposure for you than this one event. And it's so I think obviously it's helping players out, which is a good thing, but it should also start and help the organisations out as well, and make sure that they're getting more from the players and what's expected of them rather than just turn up and playing, because it's all a marketing thing at the end of the day. It's all about brand awareness and getting the brand out there, but like consistently rather than it just being kind of flash in the pan. But yeah, it's much needed, and it really is a step in the right direction. But without having seen any, it's difficult to comment. But my kind of mind is in, how good are these contracts in certain circumstances? I'm sure, there's a couple of examples such as Manalite and Renegades. I'm sure they do the homework and do everything above board, but I don't know. It's difficult to tell.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's very difficult. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat right now. I like seeing contracts being a thing in UK sports. It's something that is really sort of lagged behind in UK at the moment, is the actual contract side of it. So I know, for example, UK Premiership CS:GO, right, last season, there was multiple people who decided they would change organisations throughout the season, and it was multiple times. Now, of course, there's a rule in the UK Premiership, which means that you can play for two different teams throughout a season. If you play for a third team, you have to then present a contract, a legally binding document that would, show that you're going to that organisation for long-term purposes, not just, we're not murking, guys, really, kind of thing. So it's actually nice to see that the League of Legends side of it is now actually starting to pick up in terms of the contract side of it, because it actually gives a little bit more meaning to UK sports right now. There really hasn't been any sort of there hasn't been any sort of professional nature in UK sports, and that's what's really been a detriment to the actual scene for the last few years, is the fact that people can just swap organisations here, there and everywhere. Okay, fair enough. Sometimes you can be unhappy with your organisation, so if they don't fulfil certain promises, then obviously you can move. But there should be a certain professionalism between the players themselves and also the actual organisations to actually uphold both sides of the arguments here. So it is kind of nice to see that the contracts are coming in, and hopefully we'll see sort of salaries come in. Are Renegades sort of salaried at the moment, or are they not salaried?
I'm not sure. I would assume so. Again, eSports salary term, UK eSports salary. I think they'll be getting something, but yeah, I'm really not sure. I would like to think that they are, because they are one of the better teams in the scene. So if others are, they're probably slightly more deserving. It's funny as well. This is just as another little kind of note, as everyone suggests about, because we're the best in the UK, then we deserve to be like professionals and things like that. And it's not necessarily the case unless there's kind of something there worthwhile. Then people might not have a professional scene. So again, we'll go back to football. When you play like a random country for a World Cup qualifier or something, and you're playing against a team who are plumbers and doctors and builders and etc. As a job, and they play football for their country in their spare time, because their country, they're not good enough to warrant any better.
Yeah.
And that's the same, always been the same in UK sports. Well, it certainly is for like CS and things. A lot of the players are kind of working, and then they're playing this as a hobby, or like a bit on the side. I think with the league side of things, that it's a very younger player base, and they're all kind of basically not doing anything. Not all of them, but a large majority of them aren't really doing anything other than uni, and sometimes dropping out of uni and playing league like all day, every day. And just because they're doing that doesn't mean that they warrant a salary.
Yeah.
Unless they're good enough, is basically what I'm saying. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing. Again, it's all about taking kind of steps, but I just like to think that the people who are at the higher end are getting it. If there's people like slightly below them that are, but I don't know. It's going to make everyone have to step up the game at the end of the day, which is again a good thing. Competition, so yeah, it should have that kind of knock-on effect where more and more players start getting it. And, yeah.
One thing as far as contracts go is what's important. I think to compare it to, it would be something like rugby, where rugby, it was invented in the late 1800s, went professional in 1995. So the fact that we're in these games, we are actually having any professionalism at all, I think it's pretty impressive. And the leaps and bounds we're able to make in just these small amounts of times, to go from completely amateur, sitting around a table at your mate's house, to actually having these events, even just in the UK scene, is 10 times quicker than any other sports ever done before. So, in comparison, we're still going a hell of a lot faster than anyone else.
That is very true. I suppose that's because we live in a sort of technological revolution, and the streaming revolution has helped esports grow massively. So without, some people will say, without the aid of Twitch being here, then you wouldn't get esports as it is right now. Twitch has basically become, in sort of layman's terms, a TV network. That's basically what Twitch is now. It is like a traditional TV network. There are many different channels that you have, many different programs that go on those channels, many different things that happen. There are lots of people out there. And without Twitch driving that, esports would never have become that big. And that's why perhaps contracts is a massive thing in the top end of esports out there. But what I was sort of alluding to is the fact that UK was sort of lagging behind. I think when it came to CSGO, I think, if I remember correctly, when Mouse Sports made the jump from CSS to CSGO, they were, the only contracted team back then for the UK, because obviously Mouse Sports was Rattlesnake and Pete and Uzi and that lot. So they were sort of a contracted team and a salary. Were they salaried at that point? I think they were still salaried at that point. So, we've always sort of been lagging behind in that respect. And Spike has a really good sort of point. He says that half of these contracts are not even legal from some of the smaller orgs. So who is to say whether they're actually being professional or not? I suppose with players,
I was kind of alluding to that before. But without seeing them, you can't be sure. But I mean, you have to give some of them the benefit of the doubt. Like, say, Renegades, I'm sure they do the homework.
Yeah.
But these aren't the UK orgs. These are the international orgs that are now coming into the UK scene, because it is kind of grown and they've got that opportunity to make money. It's different to kind of us. And also with regards to his comment there about the contracts and the professionalism and things, like professional, a lot of people call themselves a professional organisation, and there's a difference between acting professionally and being professional, so everyone there is kind of doing it as a job, as a profession. Like, I hate using the word professional in esports, amongst many other words, because they're just misrepresented as words. There's certainly a difference. And it's probably right. A lot of the contracts probably are just absolutely worthless. But as I say, I suppose you have to give them the benefit of the doubt without having seen them. But I wouldn't be surprised if a large majority of them were just utter crap.
I suppose on the other end of the spectrum for that is with the very low level organisations, is for young people that are coming into the scene and all they have in their mind is this dream of going professional, becoming professional esports players. And as soon as you put a piece of paper in front of them with some numbers and a pretty logo at the top, they're probably not going to read it. And as soon as they've signed off on that, whatever is on that document, this dodgy org instantly, they have control of that. So one of I think the problems with contracts is they are legally binding, especially if they've been done properly. And young people that are looking at these are very quickly going to make assumptions and be a little bit blind to what they're actually doing and just signing away on it.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of leads on to a whole new debate about actually having someone to come in and govern it all, and it's needed for us to take the next step. The trouble is, it would literally need to have every game under that banner, because the life cycle of a game, you can't have a new one every time a new game comes out and a new scene evolves. It needs to everything needs to be under there. People like Riot, obviously, they'll do what's in the best interest for them, as a business, rather than just kind of going shoulder to shoulder with, say, if there was an organisation that had a Dota 2 team and a League of Legends team right at the top, and there was legal issues, they don't want to be involved in legal issues themselves. So yeah, it's not easy. It might happen one day. I think it needs to, just to make sure all these orgs are registered and they can be trusted. Same with all the players as well. We need some protection too. At the end of the day, that's what contracts are about and stuff. So
yeah, sure. I'm saying the problem with that is it goes both ways, doesn't it? So until you sign a contract, and it's got to be amateur, of course, it does come down to it.
Yeah, but I mean, if again for certain players, when we're talking about these salaries, I mean, I've never been in a position where I would have been able to kind of get money for playing a game, because it's just not good enough. But I would. Are players so much worse off by receiving, like, whether they have the choice to get £50 a month? Is that putting them in such a better position to get £50 a month? Then I feel like that's, you either get a salary or you don't. Getting £50 a month is kind of. I don't know. I don't know whether I would. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I just feel like you think, so I'm worth £50 a month now as a player, especially some of these players who are in uni and they're doing it, trying to do it full time.
But here's something that I think Impaler did a really good in-depth article around what would happen during the sort of player negotiations. So during a player negotiation, you should, as a player, know your sort of brand value. You should know what you bring to the table, to the team, and to the organisation itself in terms of how much you actually bring in. So if you're a well-respected streamer, let's say On Screen came to a certain UK team, not the greatest of players, I'm going to admit that and say that, but he's got a really massive following on Twitch right now, which increases his actual brand value. So really, for players, they need to know their brand value, and when they go to organisations and they look to nail down the finer details of contracts and actual salaries, they should be able to stipulate what exactly they're worth, and not be unrealistic. Because I could imagine people like I don't know. There's quite a few people in the UK esports scene that have got massive egos, and I'm pretty sure most of them would go, "Well, I'm worth £20,000 a month. Are you going to offer me that?" No, we're not, because you're an idiot. But you've got to have an understanding of your brand value. You've got to be able to produce that into some kind of metrics, and that's what Impaler did with, like, throughout his career. He's gone to organisations. He's negotiated as a player to the organisation what his exact brand value is, and there has to be an element of that now when negotiating contracts and salaries. So for the UK players, a sort of tip right now is to work out how much they actually are worth. So if you're going to UK LANs and you're a consistent top 3 player and you stream on Twitch and you've got 1,000 people that watch you every day, then your value would probably be around about 500, 600 quid a month. There you go, a ballpark figure. But if you're someone who's not top 3 and you do stream, then you're only hitting like 500 viewers a month, then your sort of kind of value goes down half, say, down to £300 a month. So there has to be an element for players to know their brand value. Do you see my point?
Yeah, definitely. That's it's a difficult one though, because if you think about football and things, the play that's not part of the contract. Part of the contract isn't, oh, you must tweet. In fact, half of them are like, please don't tweet, because you just make yourself look like a twat. So that's not how they are kind of valued by their kind of social media presence. It's about the actual ability in the game. So esports is completely different to sports in that regard. It is about just ramming your brand down the throats of everyone that you can, everyone who will kind of listen. And it's strange. It's very strange because on the one hand, you want that value from a team, all personalities, but they're not necessarily going to be the best players. So then the best player who's kind of has anxiety problems and doesn't really know how to be the greatest kind of people person, he's going to suck on that side of things. And in esports right now, he's valued less than the guy who shouts tits and arse on Twitch every fucking 2 minutes just to get laughs off like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
So it's such a strange one, and I don't really know how it can be solved other than in the future it actually just being actual salaries and it being a minimum wage and it all being above board, all tax declared, all that done, HMRC, and it being just properly, just like getting a job. But we're still a long way off that. But that's why I like the idea of contracts and everything. But if just one part of it is shit, then the whole thing's pointless. You know, it's like, so yeah, we're still in that position.
Yeah. Okay, that should wrap up that bit. Final sort of bit on League of Legends before we move on to CS:GO. Buyouts for the UK Premiership is apparently a thing. So I think I don't know. I swear I saw it in the summer season thing, but I swear there was a sort of 5 to 6 figure sum that was a buyout for a spot in the UK Premiership. Do you know much about that, Mick? Because you're our expert on League of Legends.
I've been hearing some 5-figure related things, and kind of just see it getting into the 5 figures as well. But yeah, again, it's all come around because of the challenger spot, and I think people are thinking if we can kind of get in on that, hopefully be kind of the next dig EU and make £1 million off maybe a 50 grand investment or whatever, which would include the sport, including some salaries for the players, and but right now you would have to kind of form that team in the UK. You'd have to get 3 great UK players, which apparently a lot of them are now on teams and it's already been sorted, and then 2 European imports to give yourself the best opportunity, because remember that's only getting you into the Challenger Series. To get into LCS, which is how Dig EU ended up making the fortunes that it did, was obviously by then going through the Challenger Series and completing that. So it's still a long way off, but to someone who has kind of big pockets, 50 grand, 100 grand, to try and kind of, and again, in a year's time, would that 1 million, the rumoured 1 million for Dig EU, be twice as much? Would it be 10 times as much? You don't know. So it's interesting. It's all rumour, but I think depending on what happens with the qualifiers and how the Premiership goes, we'll probably hear more about it and things. But yeah, it's just a shame if that was the case, because some of the that are still in the UK Premiership, which is the likes of Infused, Chalk, and FM.
Yeah,
it's like some of the names that have constantly been in the UK League of Legends scene. So if it was, say, one of them that was bought out, and then it comes in and it's just a random name, that's not really kind of representing a true UK Premiership as it's always been at the league scene. It's just going to be, so Renegades, Manalite, and then this potential new one, whoever, they're no longer kind of recognised within the UK LoL scene, like names wise. So it'd be strange, but yeah, I guess it's interesting to kind of hear about anyway. 10 grand's, it's not. It's not a great deal of money to someone with a lot of money, but 10 grand to a UK org would
It's
be
a lot of money.
pretty nice.
Exactly, that could, fund quite a few different sort of ventures for their teams, respective teams. So, out there in Europe, that would be a great thing to see. Anyway, we're gonna cut off the League of Legends side of it. We're going to go to a short sort of ad break, and also a video break, and we'll be back with Counter-Strike Global Offensive in the next couple of minutes, so do stay tuned. Don't forget to hashtag PhoenixUK for involvement tonight if you are watching. Also, if you want to donate or subscribe, then please do so to the actual channel. There we go, Sonny.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me.
It's the Sonic Coast of MJ Poppington.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries.
And we're back. Welcome back.
So,
It was a nice break. I sat in the same spot.
yeah, I literally, I sort of walked around the room for a minute and
Good.
then came back. And I've just found out that Chelsea have scored against United. That's a really disappointing thing, considering we were 1-0 up. So, unfortunate there. I feel really sad at this point. Anyway, so we come on to Counter-Strike Global Offensive. It's one which most of our fantastic viewers tonight are actually sort of more interested in. So hopefully we can please them with what we've got in store for them. So, of course, touching on certain subjects tonight, we'll be going over, let me get my subjects up, the minor championship qualifiers, Def's move to the North America and joining Complexity, roster shuffles from December, which we're going to do first, and the Operation King win with FM eSports and Nerd Rage. And I know a few of the FM eSports guys are actually watching in our Twitch channel tonight. So, hello, Imi. I still think you're an ego maniac, but I love you dearly. Anyway, so the roster shuffles from December, boys. Now, this was a sort of a big subject in the UK scene because I-56 decided it would throw up probably some of the most strangest results I have ever seen, including Team Roccat, who got there apparently really late and had a delayed flight to the UK. They got there really late and decided that they would play the group stages and then get knocked out because that's who they are. So even though most people sort of pegged Team Roccat as being a title contender in I-56, they lost out and went out in the group stages. And then it just kept on coming, really, because it was just like, I don't know, Monumentalists, who are all four nowadays. They made a really deep run into the bracket. I think they got to the semi-finals, if I remember correctly. And also, UFrag did really, really well with Peggy and obviously Adam. They were there in that run. And you then had CEX making an absolutely stormer of a run and obviously winning the event. So this caused a massive shuffle in the UK scene where no team at the top end of the UK scene was actually anywhere near safe from changing players. So I think, let me just pull up my actual roster shuffle post. in FM eSports, Powell was kicked out prior to LAN, and Joe left after LAN. Kaz kicked Keita, or he left, one of the two. They've never really confirmed that, and I'm sure Jake M will tell me that he actually left. And they brought in Surreal from CEX, and who else did they bring in? I think that was it. But obviously, since then, Death then has left. So they're still on the search for a fifth, as far as I know. Team Infused completely folded. And there were rumours circulating at I-56 that Red Snake would actually retire going into this year, which was kind of an interesting decision, to say the least. But obviously, he didn't retire. He formed a new team under the Infused banner. And Easy Skins, who weren't even at the event, just sort of fell apart in the aftermath. They completely folded. Apparently, whilst I think it was Rattlesnake on holiday, and they basically folded then. So there were so many different roster changes. UFrag have overhauled their entire roster. I think only Hype is Black, Yoshi, and Adam actually survived from I-56. Adam for obvious reasons. I believe they brought in Ash from sort of when he was at Team Xenex back at the UK Premiership Finals. He's sort of been a freelance, so they've brought in Ash for that side. I don't know who their fifth is entirely, but there's been a lot of roster shuffles. So do you guys have any sort of views on why the roster shuffles actually happened in December, and why it sort of took place like a mere few days after I-56 had sort of finalised?
It's all a conspiracy, really, isn't it?
What,
just playing with us, really, aren't they? They're just getting they're all conspiring over I-56. They're all getting in their little huddles, and they're like, right, we could really mess with everyone that follows the scene, and maybe someone who's just understood the scene. Let's just all go elsewhere, and then I'll really confuse people. That's what I think happened.
Yeah.
I think that some of the results and like you say, of how the tournament itself went, that just kind of summed the whole thing up. There's a couple of moves that you question and you wonder why, like the CEX, thinking why they split up after that LAN, that showed potential with that 5. And, people always, as it is in UKCS, moving for kind of pastures new, grass isn't always greener. It's so difficult. A lot of them are random. A couple of them seem for kind of fair reasons, just not having enough time to commit, and some players want to commit more time and things. But at the end of the day, it's not really going to impact on the UK scene in any way, shape or form. The same people, the same players, the same team names will still be there, just in different orders that one might be used to, essentially.
Yeah, I suppose, there's quite a few changes, obviously, and I would actually say right now that the most notable team that didn't really change, kept under the radar during all the massive changes, was Nerd Rage and Ashiki's team, basically, because they didn't really change their roster at all, as far as I know. Throughout that entire period of December, they didn't change roster once, and they sort of did, and this sort of ties into our sort of future subject of minor qualifiers, but they actually did probably the best out of all the UK teams currently in the minor championship qualifiers. They managed a couple of quarterfinal appearances in the qualifiers, and really managed to sort of they weren't that far away from some of the European teams out there. Let's put it that way. So for that distinction, that the reason as to why all the UK teams decided to swap players is always going to be a sort of, I don't know, up in the air kind of thing, because we've spoken.
I believe is the
yeah,
word.
yeah, that's it. That's the one. Mindfuck. I mean, why certain players can't get on with each other, I don't know. surely you want the best players in your side, and you try and make that work as much as possible. You may have the rivalries that happen in a side, you may have the sort of chemistry that's not there, but you work through your problems and make it stick for as long as possible, until every other avenue has been exhausted. UK players, up until last year, really didn't make that happen. And then last year, sort of, teams would actually start to gradually actually stay together for more than 4 weeks or 2 months. You know, that's basically what people are like. Oh, well, you know, they type on HLTV, don't they? They go, oh, this UK team is going to only last 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks, mate. You know, like, yeah, all right, you're all fucking laughing stock, you guys. But there is this sort of, you know, feeling outside the UK scene that teams in the UK can only last 2 weeks, whereas last year actually proved they didn't last 2 weeks. They lasted 3-4 months. You know, they would last perhaps 6 months, 7 months. Some of them were, you know, going for quite a long time. And it would be nice to see the progression this year. Hopefully that sort of massive roster change in December actually is sort of going to be it for now. And then we'll get one at the end of probably the UK Premiership finals. Just after that, I would imagine sort of some teams will move around. I wouldn't like to see any sort of changes after Epic LAN, obviously, because you've only got a month till I-57, which gives teams very little time to sort of create that chemistry. But I would like to see more teams sort of stick it out for a longer periods of time to try and compete with the European teams. You know, we shouldn't be looking at the UK scene as the pinnacle of what we could achieve. You know, that I-57 finish of finishing top 4 is not the pinnacle of what the UK scene should be able to do. We should be looking at Copenhagen Games and finishing in the top, you know, 8 there.
Yeah.
We should be looking at, you know, the minor championships as a way of getting our teams to an offline qualifier. You know, the minor championships are a massive opportunity for teams. 50 grand and prize pool, and obviously the offline qualifier spot. Now, we can only imagine that they will do exactly the same for the next sort of major that they'll run, which I was working out the other day that the next major is most likely going to be ESL1 Cologne in July this year, because just the way E-League is structured this year, it leaves a massive gap for the ESL1 Cologne. So I sort of thought, oh, that'll be the next major, perhaps. So you can expect minor championships is going to be a thing again. So it would be a great thing to see our teams actually fly the flag for the UK in a really good light.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just make it quick, mate, don't worry. But the problem with the roster changes is, if we want, because these majors and the whole process now starts taking like a really long time. So it's going to be a process of up to 3 months to get through that, and then obviously before that there's going to be a lot of practice that needs to be done. So if we want to make deep runs even into the pre-qualifiers for the qualifiers of the qualifiers for the minors, for the minor qualifiers for the majors, which the system I don't understand, but there's a lot of time that needs to be put together, practicing as a team, you know, playing the minor qualifiers for the like, I don't even understand how the qualifiers work, but there's a hell of a lot of qualifiers and a lot of words beginning with Q's. But there needs to be a lot of there's a long period of time that they need to be together, and if there's going to be roster swaps after each event, it's just not going to work out, especially with Valve's confidence, where they actually need the same organisation, the same players, the same consistency.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. There does need to be a consistent nature. And I think the way American teams have it, in terms of their roster changes come at an end of a season, and they have the off season to actually do all their roster changes and then sort of start to do that process again, is a really good process. And I actually felt that the December roster changes actually were better for the scene, You know, instead of the usual kind of let's change a player here and there, let's change this, let's change that, you know, that we see throughout a whole year. Let's completely fold before LAN because, you know, we're idiots and we like folding before LAN and then kicking a player before LAN or whatever, you know, and going to LAN as a mix. Let's go to LAN as a mix. I mean, that's the old excuse from UK teams. Let's go to LAN as a mix because it's a great excuse, guys.
I think it just comes down to the fact that when these teams are kind of only competing in UK events, there is no real incentive to stick together. Like it is kind of the same players in and around the top positions all the time, and there's nothing. Where was the step up? Like the miners will hopefully kind of introduce that and actually getting involved with European competition on a better level, but everyone's always kind of thinking when it goes back to before, rather than working issues out, half the time the teams aren't any better or worse by making a change, and it's just so easy to do, especially when you consider that you know, again, no one's being paid to do it, so they're making the decisions themselves. No one's making it for them. They don't have a manager or anything. It's just them. So it comes down to one or maybe two guys in the team calling the shots, and if they can't be asked to kind of deal with real issues and actually speak about it properly, it's just like, oh well, Dave just made a change, he's available, let's get him. Oh, but he's available as well, so we can maybe kind of get rid of one extra person and bring him in. And there's, like you said, there's just no incentive because they're still going to be in there, they're still going to be the events, they're still going to be kind of coming in the top four, like you say, and it never really mattered. And that's kind of the top and bottom of it. Now, hopefully, like you say, with the miners and a bit kind of more forward thinking, and you know, maybe, hopefully, this is be the year where we can have someone kind of at least try and do something. You know, because all we've had to kind of shout about was what Easy Skins going close on one particular game or something. Or did they get?
Well, they beat
one?
Renegades.
Yeah, they beat Renegades,
which
once.
Everyone seems to hold as the pinnacle of the UK scene actually being good. But
yeah, that's it.
When you've beaten an Australian team,
about.
when you've beaten an Australian team who doesn't have much of a scene compared to us, when we have the chance of playing European competition on a weekly basis, it's a very poor comparison. And
the one thing I will say though is obviously Easy Skins was set up much better to be able to actually give it a go. You have to consider, again, going back to the fact that all of our players are working and they're doing this in the spare time, more so than in League of Legends, because I think the CS side of things were kind of a little bit more grown up in terms of our player base. So a lot of these are still kind of working and things. So it's difficult to be able to actually sit down and kind of commit time to playing in an environment that is worthwhile, like actual good solid team practice and working through problems and where they're going wrong and like actually doing strats and things like that. Easy Skins had that opportunity because they had someone behind them and backing them financially, and yeah, we just never kind of saw it come to light. Hopefully, you know, someone gets opportunity to be able to kind of put that extra effort in. We certainly have the players who are willing, but maybe they're not all on the same team right now. So we might not get to see it. I think that's always been one of the other big issues. It's just people being on a team, and I always feel like all 5 players need to have the exact same mindset, because you got one guy who just can't be asked to do strats or whatever, who just wants to turn up and play. It doesn't like fucking. It's just, it brings the whole thing down and then implode and then back to square one. If we've got 5 players together who actually openly say, look, forget about the UK scene. We want to actually be better than that, and they want to actually aim to do more, and then they get the opportunity. Obviously, they have to be decent players as well. Can't just be a bunch of shitbags. Hopefully they get the opportunity to try and do more and kind of can progress far in these kind of minors and things, and maybe kind of get some money back for the time investment, because again right now we're just we're yo-yoing back and forth between amateur and then how do you take the step to pro without having the kind of that money in between and the financial support and the help and the structure.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. It doesn't happen overnight, and again, hence there being no incentive to actually stick together. So I think that's why it all happens. But hopefully this will be the. We've probably been saying that for how many years now?
Many years.
Many years. I think I had hair when I first said it.
Well, at least the stability in the domestic scene has actually come around now, because obviously there is more money in the UK scene. You know, a lot of teams, a lot of people will say, well, there isn't that much money in the UK scene. There's not much to play for. Well, you've got 3 UK Premiership seasons this year that you can play for. That'll all probably be around about the 10k to 15k mark each season. So that's a lot of money right there. You've got 3 I-Series that are going to be, I don't know, obviously we'll come to that at a later stage, but they're 5k prize pool. You know, if let's say that's a base prize pool for the year, that's again 15k right there for all the year events. You've got Epic LAN events this year. You're going to have many other events this year. You've got various different, like Game Face obviously have their cash prize cups nowadays, which is a great thing going forward. There's money in the scene for people to be had. Let's start actually being a good enough community to actually reap the rewards. I mean, just look at the fact that the extras that players were earning at the last UK Premiership finals. Betway obviously had a nice little sponsorship where certain players, if they did certain things during the game, they would get an extra bonus that didn't come from the prize pool, but was actually it was an extra. It was a nice additional bonus to the season. And if that comes back, that'll be just as good for all the players. So there is money to be had in the scene right now.
Yeah, I think that money though, when you look at it, I think isn't prize pool just bonus, purely bonus. And I think that's the trouble, is there's not really enough to go around to actually support a scene. Prize money should purely be seen as bonus. It's the money that's needed elsewhere for the players to be able to actually, you know, commit time and to actually go and put some hard work down to try and achieve these prize pools. I know what you're saying, and it's good because it's the kind of the largest amount of prize pools that we're going to have for a while. But
yeah,
even if one team of 5 players won every competition over the course of the year, so we say kind of say 45 for the ASL Premiership,
well,
say another 15, that's 60. So say they won, and say first place gets half of all that prize purse, so that's 60 grand that we're just talking about there. It's down to 30, and that's between 5 people. It's still not a huge amount of money, and it should only be bonus.
But at the end of the day, right, the UK scene as a whole, £50,000 prize money last year, yeah? Let's say 25 of that has gone to all the players, or the winning team. Obviously, that's not a lot for a split of 5 players. However, it's not about that should be the driving force for the UK scene. It should really be going to the majors, going to the minors, going to the offline qualifiers, trying to get their name out there and trying to win like European events. There are plenty of other European events to go to. Why has that not been a case for teams? Why have we not seen... Did we actually have a UK team outside of UK soil last year at any event outside of UK? We didn't, because the only events that teams went to were here in the UK: Gfinity events and DreamHack London. 2 events that, okay, they had a European competition, right? But again, they were only here in the UK. Where's the belief about going out to Europe? Where's the actual driving force to going and getting prize money outside of the UK? It's incredibly doable.
I do get what you're saying. It is. There's no reason it can't. I think the trouble is you can only go so high. Like, you can only go so high without having to commit more time. And as I say, it comes down to the fact that a lot of these players are still doing kind of jobs, and yeah, it shouldn't all be about the money, but to have to commit more time and to try and be one of the best, then the finance that it requires to support the players and being able to do that is still, that's why the gap is so big between kind of the top and the bottom. It's not necessarily about just how much the players make right now. It's just them being able to have enough to put in that extra bit of effort. Because right now, I'm sure we could send a team across to a European competition. But again, is it going to be any different to them just kind of playing in a UK event? If they want to play kind of the European competitions where there's better teams, and that's difficult now because all the pro teams are going to be going around on like a tour rather than they're just turning up to kind of the generic events like we're always used to. So yeah, they're going to be playing people who are just like themselves on that level of just before the pros or whatever, and it's how do we bridge that gap? But yeah, I think a lot of it has to try and come from within, and it being about kind of a want to do it as well. But I do kind of feel bad in the sense that we sometimes maybe expect a little too much, but the players themselves don't help that a lot of the time because they talk the talk but then never really walk the walk. It's such a there's just such a huge difference between being a pro and then everyone else, and I think that's the biggest difficulty that we have.
Yeah.
I think really it's like a pyramid. So for us to build the pyramid higher, the building blocks have to be in place, and right now they're not. So you need to start on the very bottom, which is obviously viewers. They're the building block of anything, and I always refer to it as like a vicious circle when I'm talking about events and stuff like that, because you need viewers to get sponsors, you need sponsors to get teams, you need teams to get viewers. But as far as actual high level competition, you need to have the pyramid in place, and every brick that we put on the bottom means we can go a little bit higher at the top. So as smaller salaries come in at the bottom, maybe that means that the team on the tier above gets paid a little bit more, and then as a few more viewers come and watch, then one event starts putting a little bit more money in, and gradually it builds itself up. And I think what the UK scene would really benefit from was just one sort of big push. I don't know how that would work, but that's what I think would actually do the trick. It's sort of like making a kid ride a bike. You just got to give it a kick and say good luck.
Yeah, I think the trouble is though, with regards to you say like the kind of pyramid formation, is I think we kind of try and build top down, because the top, it's not the top, the pros and all that, they've got a lot less to worry about. I mean, I know there's still a lot of shady shit goes on, but right now the pros are in a good place, and then we just have everyone else. So regardless of whether you're really shit and you're never going to win like your local event, down the street, or you could be winning kind of national events, it doesn't matter, because right now there isn't the middle bit. So we've got basically a pyramid with two bits, and it's the top, the pros who are all getting paid, and then everyone else. This does need to kind of be built up and kind of split up a bit better, and the people towards the higher end of the pyramid can actually do it. But again, just because you're the best in your country doesn't necessarily mean that you should be a professional if you can't earn enough money from it, or no one kind of can see it as a viable business opportunity. You know what I mean? It's just something has to give, and right now I really don't know what it is. It's unless just people with big bags of money turn up and start paying some UK
absolutely.
teams.
I don't know. I feel like we need to breed. And I say breed. We need to actually somehow start a culture. And I don't know if you saw. There was a tweet by Thorin the other day which said Korea would be the best at any esport if they chose to go with it. So League of Legends, they're the best. If they chose to go, I don't know if it's a decision they make to just change esport, but if they were to adopt Counter-Strike, they would be the best because they have the culture of gaming. It's ingrained in their culture and the way they live. And in England, it's just the opposite of that. England is, I mean, going pro, becoming a professional Counter-Strike player. You say that to someone, and they're going to say, "Don't know what." You know, they're not going to take you seriously at all. Whereas in Korea, if you say I'm a professional League of Legends player, you're some kind of a hero. You know, you're a superstar to them, and that's the difference. It's a massive cultural gap, and until we come to terms with it, and which I think the BBC at the moment, BBC Three, is doing quite a good job of, normalising it as a lifestyle.
I mean, for me, right, is it really the culture? Is it really that kind of culture? I can see that the stereotype is still there in the UK, but we are gradually shredding that sort of build, that stereotypical build. You know, the basement dwelling gamers that sit there in their basements playing games, don't go out, don't socialise. A lot of the media coverage last year was a lot better and a lot more sort of positive instead. So obviously the BBC, they helped do some online streaming last year for League of Legends and stuff. There is a gap now where the kind of, I don't know, it's like peeling an onion, basically. You're still crying because the UK scene has not got there, but you know that the core is going to be revealed to the wider scene out there. And I think that's the main thing. I don't think culture is... I think it's a big factor, but it's not as big as most people tend to say it is for going pro. I think a lot of these problems, players actually, out there in Europe, they face that every day. So, there is the stigma in other countries. There is the fact that going pro is a risk for other countries, not just the UK. Why is the UK ever so different? Why is it that...
Well, I suppose it's because we've had no real success. I mean, apart from Source, back when we had CGS, there's been no actual recognition of people that are able to go to the top levels in a game. There's been no UK success, and you need that one to kick it off. And once we get there, people are going to sort of understand a little bit more and maybe accept it. But right now, if I was very good at Counter-Strike, maybe on the top level, I'm not, by the way, I'm terrible, but if I was on the top level of
terrible.
UK playing, then if I was making a decision, and even if I was offered a contract with whatever salary on it, if I'm going to choose that over just playing while also working a job and actually being happy, earning enough money, being what we would class as a normal person, I would still be choosing that lifestyle, because it's something. It's hard to explain to your family. It's hard to live every day in a society which is not built even slightly around that, which is completely almost opposite to that way of living. We're a much more traditional lifestyle, whereas Korea, it literally wasn't formed until the late 1960s, the South Korea that we know now, and so they've literally built their country on a technological revolution. I got there in the end.
You did.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's not like I get paid to talk or anything.
No, you don't get paid to talk, mate. Sorry.
Oh, well.
You may do eventually.
I tried.
One day down the line. Yeah. Carry on though.
Oh, I think I was done.
Okay.
I'm gonna let that little bump in the road.
Slip up, yeah.
I suppose it's just like there's nothing really that anyone can say or do right now that is just going to kind of solve all of the issues. But it would be nice for the people who are involved, the players themselves, to actually give it a go themselves and really fucking try, rather than just kind of talking about it and all of us feeling sorry for ourselves. For the likes of FM and Nerd Rage, like you say, they're actually doing really quite well now. So just kind of keep at it, I guess, and try and not just be the best team in the UK. Try and be like a good international team, rather than just all this. What does the best in the UK mean? Really, it means sweet. Like it's just a garbage title to behold right now. So yeah, like we'll see what happens over the course of the year. But yeah, it's just nothing can be said to just fix it.
Okay. Well, that sort of nicely ties in with our next sort of mini topic tonight, which is Rory Def Jackson moving to North America and joining up with Team Complexity. Now, this was an absolute surprise. I actually thought when someone mentioned this to me prior to actually writing the news post on ukcsgo.com that it was, is someone actually pulling my leg? Or, you know, why would a North American team pick up a UK player, and a UK player at that, who, not being funny and not being nasty or anything like that,
No, you're
who
right.
hasn't really achieved much in the respective UK scene, hasn't achieved much in Europe, why would you go out on a limb and decide, yeah, let's pick up this player? Because if you're going to make those kind of choices, you make them based on the fact that they've got a long history within Europe. They have a long history in the UK. But we don't actually know. I mean, even though Def has been around a little while in the UK, we don't actually know much about his backstory in terms of gaming-wise. What has he done prior to CSGO? You know, was he a 1.6 player? Was he a Source player? I don't know. It's very difficult to find out all the history of certain players. So it actually struck me as a real big surprise when when the initial reports were coming out about Def being picked up by Complexity. And I just don't get it. I mean, why wouldn't you go for a better player in the UK? Like someone like Surreal would have been a big pickup for him. You know, he obviously was a key part of CDX's sort of strategy to win I-56 in December. He was, you know, he has been for a long time one of the most upcoming players in the UK. He's got one of the best, you know, fragging abilities in the UK right now. And yet they've picked up Def, which I don't know. What are your thoughts on it, guys?
And it's less what's he done as, in my opinion, who he knows. Because there's got to be some connection. It can't just come out of the blue that a really well-known organisation like Complexity, which has a massive history in North American Counter-Strike, just comes out of the blue completely and picks up this in the global scene, this no-name guy from the UK, and they just pick him up. Which, you know, I can't see any pretense to this. I can't see any backstory that originates or can be found. So I don't know what. And obviously, there's the whole idea that his RWS is what got him in there, but I don't think you can put it down to just the one thing. And I don't know if you saw today on the CS:GO subreddit, there's already been about 3 different clips of Def just stomping NAFPL mixed in there with Simple, and I think you can liken Def's pickup somewhat to Stewie2K with Cloud9, where it's this guy that potentially has, you know, good fragging power, and as you said, Surreal would have been the more logical pick, but like I said, it's who he knows, and they've picked him up on this, and hey, it might work out. I'm looking forward to seeing them in action pretty soon. I think there's a LAN coming up with quite a few NA teams relatively soon, so I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what they can do.
Yeah.
See,
Sorry, go.
Imi's just put a question on Twitch chat, right? And he's gone, why hasn't research been done if this was going to be a topic? Well, Imi, let's put it this way. If we did our actual research, which we do for this show, and it is the first show, then there wouldn't be much, A, to talk about, and B, there wouldn't be a lot left for people to actually form their own opinions here. So, Imi, I'm answering your question for you. There you go. That's why there is been research done, but we're, you know, putting the opinions out there. We're actually forming a judgment for this case. Anyway, carry on, Mick.
Yeah, I was just going to say with regards to Def, is it'd be interesting to see kind of. I mean, they did just kind of, you know, pick his name out of a hat. it'd be interesting to see what approach they did take before picking them up, and what information they put together to say, like, this is who we want to try. From everything that I've seen and heard, a lot of people who have played with them don't doubt that he can make it, and it could be like a really, really good pickup. But still, that it's just that not knowing of where the leap from being playing at a UK land to now being in complexity it's just so strange to kind of comprehend. But I think he'll do quite well. Like, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's funny that it was him and not one of the more known names that have been in and around the scene so long, who were kind of crying that they've not had like these opportunities. It's now someone, like you say, with relatively little background information is now just being picked up and plucked out, and he's getting an opportunity. So yeah, it's probably a lot of salt from a lot of people, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the general scheme of things, and judging by so far the clips that we've seen on the CSGO subreddit, there is possibility that it's going to really work out for him. Let's say, right, Sonny, and I'm going to bring you in here, Sonny, because, if you were given that opportunity to move to North America, there's a risk versus reward, right? The risk is it might not work out. You could get kicked. Would you stick over there, and would you actually firstly move to North America to actually make it work? And secondly, would you stick out there after initially being picked up and then perhaps not having a great few tournaments and getting kicked? Would you stick out there and actually try and make something of North America?
Well, I think personally, as far as would I go over there in the first place, absolutely, there'd be no doubt. I would see no risk. I'd be gone. I'll be on the next plane to America. But if something went wrong and I did get kicked, I think Dev's already made quite a good standing for himself, making 2 times front page of the subreddit. He's already made the name for himself. If he gets kicked, and as you were saying earlier, let's tie this back in, he's built a brand. He's building a bit of a brand around himself, and especially as they start getting into games, start getting into the leagues, as he does build up that I'm struggling for words because vocabulary limited, but as he builds up a bit of a character, a bit of background information, and people start to learn a bit more about him. And when I say people, I don't mean the experts that have known him for 20 years and know every little detail about him that may be in chat or potentially not. Most people don't know what you know about these people. So to be able to build up background information that people actually know, and a bit of a repertoire with the fans and the people in the scene, I think that's what he needs to be doing right now, building up a bit of camaraderie with the players, and I think that's what he needs to be doing. But personally, I would be out there, and I'd be staying out there. You couldn't get me back.
I mean, I suppose the biggest risk, and Steptoe sort of asked this in Twitch chat, why is it a risk? Well, it's a risk firstly because obviously you're leaving your established family, you're leaving your established friends, you move into a different continent that you don't really know many players or many people in. It's not a short journey by any stretch. I mean, I felt when I moved to university here in Plymouth that it was going to be a risk. It is a risk. You're moving 300 miles away from your closest family and friends, and you've got to meet new people. Now, many people might not see that as a risk, but it is still technically a risk. You're moving from your established base of operations, for example, and you're moving somewhere different that you don't know much about. So it is a risk. That is part and parcel of being this. The biggest reward here is if complexity do actually make it into the E-League, which is for $1.2 million for the first season, and obviously for the second season later this year. That is the biggest reward there. And to have a UK player out there representing the UK scene is a great thing. And I suppose, are we going to see a trend? Is Def the sort of trend setter here? Is he going to actually set the trend for more players to do exactly like what he's done? are we going to see more UK players move different places to actually, get somewhere? Do you think?
I think that this opens a door. It absolutely opens a door, and the more he does, like he's our representative. You know, when you were in primary school and the headmaster, you'd be like going on a school trip or something. The headmaster would come to you and he'd say, "You are ambassadors of the school. You must act as if the school has its label on your blazer," which it did. But for Def, literally, he has the entire UK scene now for the general world to see on him. So everything he does is now UKCS. So everything he does well is UKCS, and everything he does badly, is he Scottish? Can we pin that on him like with Murray?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just figure out some way of deflecting that. But so he's got it all on his shoulders now. He opens a door for the rest of the UK to try and improve, and to actually have an opportunity to improve, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, that ties up that subject, guys. Do we want to just have a short break, and we'll reconvene after the break and then have another sort of poke at some of the other CSGO subjects we were going to touch on? Obviously, I'm a bit concerned about the time today, because obviously we're only on until 7 o'clock today, and we've already nearly filled out the show. So we'll go for another short break. Don't forget you can get involved with the hashtag PhoenixUK. Okay. Go for it,
Right.
Sonny.
Give me 2 seconds.
Get on the really long video.
Yeah, well, that's
2-minute
what I've gone
video.
with. 2 minutes, 12 seconds. I'll see you then.
Lovely.
I'ma wait in, I'ma take it. Walk straight, I'ma put it on a playlist. Wake up, kids, you wanna base it. Get up off the floor, let's face it. Jump to the rhythm, my honey's in the back. Jump to the rhythm, we're turning up the track. Jump to the rhythm, my buddy's in the back. Time to make sweat, time to clap. Start basic, just embrace it. Close your eyes and try to fly weightless. Getting busy, I'm a wizard on the dance floor. I'm getting busy and I'm filling up with ammo. Jump to the rhythm, my honey's in the back. Jump to the rhythm, we're turning up the track. Jump to the rhythm, time to bring it home. Heart pump and adrenaline flow. Heart pump and adrenaline flow.
I'm feeling the love, moving to the light. We're turning it up, we're doing alright. We're feeling the rush, we're out on the line. We're turning it up, we're doing alright. We're doing alright. We're doing alright.
Yo, we gonna take it up a notch. Watch as the room gets hot. Sweat it out, let it out. Take a bow, hands up, you're working now. Jump to the rhythm, my honey's in the back. Jump to the rhythm, we're turning up the track. Jump to the rhythm, time to make a friend. Feet to the floor, and we're bringing it in.
It's the most fun you can have in a dark room with your clothes on.
Moving to the light, we're doing alright. We're turning it up, we're doing alright. We're feeling the rush.
And we're back. There you go. I'm let out of breath there. I had to run downstairs.
You had to run
Yeah,
downstairs.
well, I wasn't sure how long 2 minutes was, and I'm not very good at counting, so I did it. I just did it. Got myself a can of soda pop, and I'm ready. I'm back on.
I must admit, I had to get myself a drink because
Yeah.
it's kind of a dry on your throat to talk for this long. I'm not used. Well, actually, I'm used to talking this long because it's kind of a thing with me. Anyway, we'll try and go over the next two smaller subjects in a little bit less depth than everything else. But Operation Kingwin with FM eSports and Nerd Rage, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of hatred and flame from Imi because he's been kind of like that for the duration of this show. So, have you been keeping up with Operation Kingwin, guys? And what are your thoughts around it? Because it's hosted by Sivo at the moment.
I wanted to watch Operation Kingwin, but it was on Ding It.
Yeah,
So-
I mean that is the biggest problem with Operation Kingwin as a whole is the fact that you have to download a plugin for Ding
Yeah.
It, and a lot of people just don't like doing that. Why try and revolutionise the streaming platform when you've already got things like Twitch and Hitbox that do it in browser right now? You know, what's the point?
I think there must just be a lot of money. I think,
Yeah.
it's like Abuzu. All right, they're paying a lot of money for that game show. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
the probably the 200 grand prize pool is Azubu. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so Operation Kingwin 2. Obviously, FM were drawn in Group A with CSGO, Lounge, and Gambit and Temp Norway. And Nerd Rage were drawn in Group B, easy to remember. EFrag, CSGO 1, and Team Uporn, or Team YP, to be specific. But so with the results so far, let's have a look. So Nerd Rage lost recently to EFrag. They lost in a 2-0 series, and FM eSports have also lost 2-0. They lost to CSGO Lounge in a best of 3. Their maps were Train, they lost 16-14 on, and Mirage, they lost 16-7 on. Whereas Nerd Rage actually I swear I remember they sort of just capitulated. Oh no, they had an overtime 19-15 and then on Dust 2, and then they lost 16-12 on Cobblestone. So 2 really close matches, to be honest. And it really does show that the UK scene is actually getting there with, I don't know where you could actually, Tier 3 Europe right now. So you couldn't, or Tier 2 Europe, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I think it's Tier 3 Europe. So, what are your thoughts around the guys in Operation Kingwin? Are we getting closer to European competition right now?
I think it's definitely a start. Any progression is progression. So we've got in there. We've battled with the smaller titans, and we've come out of it. We lost, but we did well. So I don't know. Maybe like a medal. You tried, gold star on the wall. But if this is our level of achievement, is we came close to winning. We almost won. We did pretty well, but we didn't quite win. I feel like we need to win, and then we can move on, and then we can say we went up against these guys, but we won everything else, so it's all good. But we just couldn't quite make it here.
Well, to be honest, EFrag are currently ranked on HLTV
19th.
in their top 20. 18th, actually, not 19th. Don't know where you got 19th
Oh,
from.
man, I'm
Renegades
sorry.
are 19th.
I was off the head.
Yeah, EFrag are currently ranked 18th on their sort of top 20 ranking weekly thing. So you could say, really, Nerd Rage are very, very close. Very, very close. As you said, it isn't good enough. Obviously, we should be beating these sides, but it's still a step in the right direction, and that's what we're actually seeing. Is we're seeing a step in the right direction, and of course, Nerd Rage being the longest surviving team so far since the roster shuffles, it's actually a good thing to see them do well. I think they felt that they didn't quite get over the line and should have done better, like any team. But they're actually starting to show the actual progression that we want to see in the UK scene. I think their next match is... crap, I can't find the actual fixtures for it. Let me just find out the fixtures. But what are your thoughts on it, Mick? Because, I don't know, you haven't really spoken about this bit yet. Mick, your microphone's muted.
Hello.
Face
There we
palm.
go. First one. It was so I could listen to some piano music in the background.
Oh, I see.
No, I think just kind of going back into what was said before with regards to actually wanting to achieve something now, rather than it just being about, oh, we could do this in the UK scene or whatever. So if we are kind of starting to move forward on that, and this has obviously shown it. I mean, they had to qualify for this as well, right? It wasn't just a case of they were picked. So, and yeah, they respectable results in terms of of the scores. There's no real kind of like hammerings there. There's no reason why they can't finish second in their groups. The pair of them. Yeah, it is good to see. I'm quite kind of looking forward to it and seeing how kind of they do progress. It's an interesting one. Like I'd like to see Nerd Rage at some UK events as well, and actually see them up and against the other titans of the UK scene, as it were.
Well, yeah,
but
because
obviously
they did miss out on I-56, and the last time we actually saw Nerd Rage as it was in their previous team, which was Team Xenex at ESL UK Premiership Finals. So, again, I'd like to see them come to UK events.
Yeah. And I do think that these two teams are kind of at the forefront right now in terms of where our scene's at, and keeping an eye on them over this cup would be pretty good. I do believe that FM in particular have like a good mentality with the people. Imi, albeit he's he can be a little bit rough around the edges at times. At least he actually is just honest and says that he gives a shit. You know what I mean? Because there's so many
rough
people
around the edges. Did you say?
Yeah, he's a little rough around the edges. That's fair to say. But not. At least he cares, and he'll just say, "Oh, I want to do better. I want to get better, and I want to achieve something," rather than it being just the usual. "Ah, fuck, we're just we're just a mixed Islam. We didn't practice or whatever, and we've had this." And it's just the same old excuses. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. The other subject that obviously we can't really cover these too much in depth, but the other subject to cover right now is the. Oh no, that was it really for CS:GO. Strange enough, I've just looked at my little bit. So we'll move on to Dota 2, which will be a short, brief one by Mick, because Mick, you're a. Well, not a resident Dota 2 expert. You're definitely not one of those, but you do know a bit. You've been keeping up with Dota 2.
I've been trying to keep an eye on the scene, I suppose, but I've never actually played a game of Dota in my life. So
I mean, that is something that is sort of you need to be an expert at. You need to at least play the game once. I mean, I've played the game once. In fact, I've probably played it many times with Holy Cupcake, Mr. Ethan. Yeah, I've played it many times with him, and it seems to be rubbing off on me how crap he is at the game. But anyway, Dota 2. So you talked about the other day, because you said to me the other day about the UK competitions in Dota 2 with various different things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much like any kind of domestic scene. It's full of people who want it to get better, but not enough people actually doing anything there to help it. But there are some other little kind of diamonds in the rough there, though. Like there's the Blink Dota League, which is kind of more towards kind of the community to the middle end. That seems to have been a focus because there hasn't been any of the LAN winners getting involved. But it'll be nice to see because they're getting the opportunity of playing an offline final down in Meltdown with casting from, is it Pyrian Flax? Pyrian Flax, yeah. And he's going to be casting the final down in London. So that's a good opportunity for some of the teams. And I think there's things going on in the background where they're going to try and start like a UK in-house league or whatever. But there's no real place in terms of like game face or anything like that. No system where anyone's actually kind of, it's easily identifiable of what it is and what it wants to do and what it wants to achieve. There's no like league, as it were, other than like say these Blink Dota leagues, but they're just starting out, so they don't have all these systems in place. I think originally it was signing up or using like a Google form and stuff like that. it would be nice to see things progress, because I think that there is potential to have a good few teams in the UK, and hopefully try and take a better approach to it. Again, the way Dota's been in the past has just been mixers winning every event. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it'll be interesting over the course. Hey, at least they've still got a tournament at Epic, because they've got enough teams that can do it. You know.
Well, that is true. I mean, we've got 6 teams coming to Epic Land for Dota 2, and even though, like, many players will say, well, in the Dota 2 scene, this is basically their excuse at the moment. Oh, well, if Epic Land hadn't have sold out, then we would have got more teams to Epic Land.
Yeah, I suppose that's a fair point.
Which
though.
is actually a fair point. I mean, we can't really do much about the size of Epic Land at the moment. We should be able to, in future, perhaps expand at the current venue, because there is potential to expand there at the moment with the sports hall. But 6 teams, decent. It's not a problem. Perilous Ruin is there. You've got Dread Knight's sort of stack of players, which is Monster and YFOM and that lot. And obviously, you know, Dread Knight would probably be arguably one of the favourites to win LAN at any time of the year. Dupes has got Choke there, who'll be going to LAN. Then you've got Soup's sort of stack of team players in there. I'm sure he'll be another sort of favourite out there. So you've got 6 decent teams going to LAN. You know, what was the other one that's going to LAN? I think it's...
That's not bad.
I know by going to the tournament website who they are. The other team that I know is Frenzy Gaming, which is Dowda's team, which is Squirtle, who used to be a Perilous player, and Wire K19_. They're going to LAN, so it'll be interesting to see how well Dowda's does at LAN, especially at an Epic LAN event, because I think this is his first Epic LAN, if I remember correctly. So, you know, there's a good bit of competition in the Dota 2 scene at the moment, and judging by the Join Dota League, there is 10 teams in each of the 3 UK only divisions at the moment. There are other UK teams spread out across certain European divisions, if I remember correctly, but there's 3 different divisions in Join Dota League, which is actually quite interesting to see that there's 30 teams signed up. You know,
Yeah.
that's a really good thing to see.
I think there's a bit of a push on at the moment to try and get these teams to come to events and turn up at LANs and things, and it'll be interesting to see over the course of this year, because I think there's also something else going on in the background where they're creating something called England, England without the D, very very creative, and I think that's been pushed by Period Flax as well. I think he's got something to do with that, and obviously him being kind of Dota 2, that'll hopefully, you know, at least it'll get eyes on it, and we'll see how that develops. But yeah, there's teams there. It's just getting them to the events. I mean, there's more teams there in the JDL as UK teams than have been trying to qualify for the League of Legends UK Premiership.
Yeah.
So
Strangely enough, because I didn't notice this a minute ago, but on Join Dota, there's actually in Division 4, there's a UK only division there. There's Division 5 where there's a UK only division there, and then obviously you've got the 3 starter divisions. It's really weird how Join Dota do their stuff. It's not a conventional means of doing it anyway. But you've got UK S1, UK S2, and UK S3, and then you've got 2 other UK divisions only, which is actually rather interesting to see. So there is potentially, 60 teams right there? 50 teams? 50 teams,
yeah.
Sorry. So why are these 50 teams not going to LAN events? I mean, that is one of the things that we struggle with, especially at Epic LAN. We only get 6. I think we broke 10 or 11 teams last year at Epic 14, I think, which was our biggest sort of Dota tournament outside of what ESL UK did at Epic 12, which was a little bit different, a little bit more professional. But why are these teams not coming to our? Why are these teams not going to LAN events? Because even the iSeries numbers, they're relatively similar in nature. Each event is pretty much pulled in 29, 30 teams roughly. it's never really declined or grown, so to speak. So why is the scene so reluctant to change in the UK specifically? Why is there not a massive sort of playing field
If I
right
can
there?
just wade in quickly and say, just you said earlier that they were saying it was a bit of an excuse. It was sold out too quickly. I mean, that's just not an excuse. Like, it's not like you don't know when it's coming. Epic LAN and Insomnia, they're all booked or announced months in advance. So it's not really an excuse to say, it was booked up, we couldn't make it. That's just a lack of passion, really. If you want to do it, you'll do it. It's not like you can't just blame whoever you like at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
if you want to have
I
an
suppose.
excuse,
Sorry. Yeah,
No,
I suppose
yes.
the thing is that the teams who were going to be competing to kind of win the tournament have made sure that that they're going to be there. It's kind of the wider community and the teams who, in theory, don't have a real opportunity to win the event. It's them who can like use that as an excuse. But I suppose that's the same across all games. The trouble is Dota 2 is really quite elitist in terms of how things are, and I think it might just be the fact that a lot of these players, they don't want to turn up to an event, get stomped, and then go home type thing. Especially when they can, play Dota at home and they can play ranked games and stuff. So yeah, they don't have that. I don't think the wider community doesn't have that passion to compete, as it were. But still, because of that, we're getting the best teams to actually play against each other together. So I don't know necessarily that we're missing out, but yeah, it would be nice to see like a big community event where there is a lot of teams. So we'll see.
and they can't be afraid to lose if there's no one there to fight. If you don't turn up, you're not going to lose, but you've got no chance of winning in the first place. So like, it just seems like excuses, really. And if Dota in the UK wants to work or take off at all, you can't just say, even if they're not saying it, if they're just afraid to lose. Then
But it's a case of
don't
so the 6 teams for Epic, for example, and say they're just as an example, say they're the 6 best teams in the UK, right? And
Just an
and
example,
they can compete against each other well, even though there's going to be favourites out of them 6. But then to get a big event, you're going to have say another 10 teams who have no chance of really one of those 10 teams could maybe break into the top 6, and see that as a sense of achievement. But if only one of them 10 sign up and say, right, I want to go to a LAN event, then they in theory are going to get stomped by 6 other teams. If there was say 10, 15, 20 kind of lesser, more community focused teams that all kind of went and gone together, and then they think, oh yeah, there is games that I can win, and it's not just going to be a stomp, but it's either all or none. And I think right now we're just at the none. We need to try and encourage some more of these teams to actually turn up and go. But yeah, that again, it doesn't happen overnight, and I don't really know what can be said about it other than getting 10 of them together in a group and saying, come on, if we all go, at least we can compete against each other.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, Ethan's just pointed this out on Twitter, that a lot of us do tend to forget that LAN events are an £100 commitment plus. I suppose if you're a team that goes to, let's say, 3 events a year, right, you're looking at £300 for those LANs just on the entry of the LAN events. So iSeries right there, 97 quid each. Yeah. So that's before you include the travel and the accommodation, which at an Epic LAN, obviously I'm going to pimp this up and say, well, at an Epic LAN you can actually save on that because you can just sleep inside and sleep on the desk or sleep under the desk or whatever. You sleep wherever you like at an Epic LAN event. You can save the actual money there. But, for most people who are kind of established in the scene, they want to actually spend a bit of money on a hotel. Obviously, they've got to spend money on travel. And that costs, upwards or up to about 100 quid. So obviously, I'm not saying that LAN events are cheap or cheerful or but I would expect sort of the scene to sort of grow. Not being funny, CS:GO at Epic 17 is going to hit somewhere in the region, because obviously there is quite a few teams that aren't signed up on the tournament website that are actually sat down. It is going to hit somewhere around about 27, 28 teams for the tournament. Now that's a massive growth in comparison to what we had last year. So last year I think we had 13, 15 and 16 for CSGO, whereas Dota had 10, 8 and 6, I think. And again, it's got 6 this time round. So the Dota scene doesn't seem to have that sort of catchment with people where they can actually come to an event and enjoy an event. A lot of the Dota players actually regard Epic Land as their sort of home sort of place to go. They go to an iSeries because it's kind of, the prize money is there, but they come to an Epic Land because they actually enjoy Epic for that reason. So we just need to see more Dota teams actually turn up to an event. More new ones, for example, perhaps.
I mean, Dota is traditionally, it's the esport that people regard as the one with the most money in it. You got things like the international, you got also the majors throughout the year. So I don't know. I feel like if it's going to be the esport, it's going to be the money esport, then shouldn't that be spreading down into the lower echelons? Shouldn't there be, a feedback of that down into the lower level teams and the teams that could be going to these low level lands? And if there's no organisations, I don't know anything. Honestly, I don't know too much about the Dota 2 UK scene, but
there
are
is
there organisations?
some organisations. Obviously, Choke have a Dota team. Reason have flirted with Dota quite substantially. Blank still has Dread Knight, really. I mean, you could call that a sort of, I don't know, affiliation with Reason. And then obviously you've got Perilous. We're involved in Dota at the moment. But other than that, there isn't, I think Frenzy Gaming is the only other one. Who else is in there, Mick? Do you know? Because even looking at the joined Dota, even looking at the joined Dota divisions, there isn't any teams in there that are actually part of an organisation. There's one team, Enclave. That's the only other one that I can see. They're in Division 5 at the moment, UK side. But I don't see any sort of other ones that are actually...
I can't think from the top of my head, but as well, I think the way the Dota 2 scene is in terms of its events as well, is they build up to have these big tournaments, and there is a lot less focus on LAN events and things.
Yeah.
So there's no, I don't know whether it's just born out of the community, and that there's no real desire for that anyway, because I'm not entirely sure exactly what it is. It would be nice to see all of the teams go there and turn up and kind of show how strong the community could be, but again, it just comes down to the people within the scene themselves actually
just getting on with it. Just literally just getting on with it, because you can't start until you start. So that's
because let's be honest, some of the prize pools in Dota for LAN events or iSeries at the moment aren't that bad. I mean, let's be honest. 5k for Dota 2 right now is actually pretty impressive, considering the amount of teams they get and the disparity again between Dota 2 and CS:GO. Obviously we've spoke about a lot of CS:GO tonight, and we've spoken about League of Legends a lot earlier on tonight. But again, there's this sort of disparity between Dota 2 and CS:GO, like there was earlier with League of Legends and CS:GO. There's only 30 odd teams that go to events. So why is an esport like CS:GO, which is bringing 80 plus teams to events, and we had 54 at I56, biggest sort of tournament there, the biggest CS tournament we've had for a Winterland event for a very, very long time. Why is there a disparity? And Dota teams really need to look at, this is a great opportunity again for them to earn £5,000 and get some money on that ladder. Don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, when you think about like you say, the money that is there, um, it, it's definitely up for grabs. Also, speaking about what you mentioned about CS:GO, it is a massive, massive shame that it's all of the same level. Shouldn't be treated that way. Should be treated like down to sign-ups, like Epic do it. But yeah, um, yeah, there's massive opportunity for people to be getting a bit of that pie if they just kind of do it and get going and giving it a whirl. But I think at the same time, if you have a look over the recent history of UK Tour, it's been won by the same people over and over and over again. From what I gather, I think it's maybe time to change this year. There are other teams coming out and things, but we'll see what the. It's one of those that only time will tell. But in terms of the UK scene, it's far behind CS, and I would say even behind LoL, but maybe only behind LoL because LoL can have the UK Premiership to kind of hold them to a kind of higher degree. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think there's an element of Riot support as well for League of Legends in the UK. They do tend to sort of pimp their UK tournaments only, whereas of course UK eSports, UK Dota at the moment isn't as is not as established out there. It's still again a bit like CS:GO. It's a laughing stock in their respective scenes. No one really cares about UK Dota as much as we like to think we should, and we like to think that European teams should keep an eye on UK Dota. They just don't. So I suppose that's probably another reason why the scene is reluctant and getting bigger. There you go. Okay. Right. Well, we'll do, because there's no one. I don't think there's anyone on after us. We'll wrap up the show in a bit with our final subject, which will be Wolfsburg, which enters the realm of esports and the acquisition of a UK FIFA player. We'll do that next. So we'll go to a short video break, and I'll give people time to actually read up on that if needs be. So don't forget, get involved via hashtag PhoenixUK. Obviously, subscribe, follow to the Epicland channel as well. So be right back in about, I don't know, 2 minutes, I suppose, again. Sorry.
Minute and 14, actually. But I can play it twice.
Minute and 14.
I can play it twice and we can have 2 minutes and 20... I'm not even going to bother doing the math. I don't know how maths works, so I'm just going to play it.
Okay, cheers, mate.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me.
It's the Sir Nicholas of Andrew Poppington.
Some legends are told, some turn to dust or to gold, but you will remember me for centuries. Just one mistake is all it will take. We'll go down in history. Remember me for centuries. Remember me for centuries.
Okay, and we're back on. Did you enjoy your minute 14?
I certainly
I did.
did, because it gives me a good chance to just close all the excess tabs I have on my Chrome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the final kind of segment to the show tonight will be the sort of other esports that are out there in the UK. And one of the big stories this week that sort of broke kind of, I don't know, it broke on the BBC for some strange reason. It was actually done by BBC Newsbeat this week, which was one of the FIFA players, top FIFA players in the UK, who's been playing at a professional level since he was 17. Got picked up by Wolfsburg, which is a David Bithway. Bithway. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I could be wrong, obviously, but he got picked up by Wolfsburg this week, which is an interesting move for a football club. I suppose there's a lot of comparison between how football and FIFA sort of coexist, and it would make sense for Wolfsburg to actually sign people to actually represent them at a FIFA level. Of course, he's now salaried, which is a great thing for him, and he'll be going around the world again to do the FIFA Interactive World Cup this year and certain other things. So with the FIFA Interactive World Cup last year, it went to Las Vegas, New York, and Rio de Janeiro. My pronunciation of everything tonight is really bad. I do apologise for that. But it went to those different places. Obviously, there was some in London, Madrid, and other parts of the world as well. So it's an actually big opportunity for both Wolfsburg and David to actually get on the horse and actually do really well here for Wolfsburg. I mean, it's not unusual for us to see like actual football clubs get involved with esports, but it is kind of a big name football club who's got involved with esports, whereas it tends to be sort of the local kind of Spanish sides that have got involved with esports before. So what are your views on this sort of pickup? Is it going to be a trendsetter again for esports in the UK as well? And anything else you might want to add on?
I didn't manage to catch the TV part of it myself, but my dad did, and I did actually have a word with him about it. And from what I gather, he's actually virtually running through games for them to see how they might perform and what they can improve on with their team. I think that's actually quite a cool concept, because certain games, I don't know if CS has been recently, but they used to use for virtually going over training simulations.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting how it's not just like a football team picking up like an esports player, but it's actually got some practical use in both regards, because they can run through it, and I'm not expecting the NYPD to suddenly pick up like CLG or something as some out of the blue move to pick up and find new strategies and just have them play on office all day. But I think it's more interesting than them just picking up like a team just to compete for them. And FIFA, I don't think would be specifically the most popular to use for that kind of example. But I think it's interesting. My lord, interesting to see a bit of integration between games and these already very established roles like football and like the police force.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, we've noticed the army have used sort of like CS:GO, well, not CS:GO, but CS 1.6 and CS Source back in the day. Various sort of different armies have used that as a training exercise. I don't get why you would use FIFA as a training exercise. Why would you use FIFA as a training?
It seems a little bit far-fetched to me.
It doesn't make sense to me on that respect. Oh. But good credit to Wolfsburg. They're going to go out there and actually do something. I suppose that's brilliant for them. But it just doesn't sort of sit well thinking, oh, well, he's going to help train players up in the grand scheme of things. That's kind of interesting.
I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, it's a marketing thing, right? And they think they can make money off him by pushing their brand out down a different avenue, and whilst also getting involved with what is kind of the fastest growing entertainment media, which is esports, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a marketing thing. Interesting, given the fact that he, from what I gathered, they won't be forcing him to play Wolfsburg in every game that he plays.
Well, I hope not.
But then that means he's going to be actually sitting there wearing his Wolfsburg shirt whilst playing as Barcelona or whatever, or Real Madrid, to kind of go out there and compete. It seems a bit of a strange one to me, but yeah, I mean, at least it's the good thing about it is that there's a young kid kind of living the dream right now. I'm sure he'll be paid very well. But yeah, the whole idea that he could be in any way, shape, or form helping the team, it just seems absolutely crazy to me. Like, I just can't see, having played FIFA, I just can't see what that would offer.
I don't know. I mean, I think the problem with FIFA as an esport is it is actually kind of big, right? But it's not big. Do you get my gist?
Yeah.
It's kind of big in its respective
It's like Call of Duty.
participation levels. Yeah, it's like
Call of
Call of
Duty.
Duty.
It's a game that consumers love, but as far as esports is concerned, really there's not too much backing. And the most, probably the.
I don't know. There is something backing.
No,
it, because
yeah, in
obviously
Call of Duty,
FIFA has been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Especially in the top end of esports. It was part of CGS, for example. Back in the days of
That
2006
might
to
spark
2008.
chat to bring up a CGS capper. We had one of those
Oh,
earlier
God,
when I mentioned
yeah.
it. But and the man, in my opinion, who's made probably the most money out of games, KSI, probably ever, apart from professional Dota teams. That's on FIFA. That was on primarily FIFA to begin with. So
Yes, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and he's
But he-
shit at FIFA as well.
Yeah,
by the way.
exactly. But
But-
it is the game that's made him or put him out there to begin with. So
I think that's more down to the YouTube audience.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
FIFA has a massive YouTube audience. People love watching those YouTube videos like the Jeff banter, because obviously he talks out of his ass for, all the injuries that come in game. And after a player's been substituted off, he's saying, well, I think he'll carry on. Cheers, Jeff. Yeah, idiot. But yeah, a lot of those videos, FIFA is sort of a YouTube kind of centric thing. People love watching FIFA videos for some reason. And I don't know whether it's an esport as a whole, but I think Wolfsburg getting into esports like that is actually a really good sign. I think more football clubs should really be doing that, because it is a great way of not like, as you said, marketing is a big thing, right, for this, but it's actually a great way for raising their profile with the demographic that is currently not watching traditional TV, well, not as much traditional TV, and now watching a lot more of Twitch. You think how much some of these football clubs could earn from just Twitch alone. That would be a massive thing for them. If you entered in like Manchester United and they have a couple of big streamers, and then they get to play with certain players like Wayne Rooney, for example, on Twitch, that would be a really big thing, for Twitch. So Rooney plays with certain person, blah blah blah. That would be a big thing, right?
Well, they could do that anyway without needing to have an esports pro involved. They could, if they wanted, they could just Wayne Rooney could stream on Twitch, and they would announce it, and within minutes there'd be thousands and thousands of people watching it. You don't have to. He's not going to go under the radar because he's not playing against this Dave guy who's really good.
Yeah,
at
but
FIFA.
at the same time, you want the pro there to sort of highlight that you're doing this. You want, because obviously Wayne Rooney playing FIFA could be an absolute fucking. Well, he could be as bad as he is on the pit. Well, for the first part of the season, he could have been as bad as he was in the first part of the season, not scoring any goals. He could have been shit at FIFA, let's say. But you want that sort of professional player there who knows FIFA like the back of their hand, sort of schooling Wayne Rooney.
yeah, it could be
wouldn't
like
you?
whoever teaches Rooney.
Yeah.
You could build up a whole brand around that. Teaching,
You could.
Yeah, you'd be really
Teaching professional football players how to play FIFA.
Well, I think
properly.
I don't know though, because I think a lot of pro players that play FIFA and stuff anyway, they're involved with the game and the advertising of the game and stuff, and I don't know. I don't really see any great benefit other than, like I say, a young kid's actually going to be living the life of Riley now, and it's pretty cool for him, and I'm happy for him. But I don't really see it all that much. I think it'll just die down. Like, we'll talk about it now, which is being great for the market wise. Bang, like the job done. Like now, anything else is just a bonus as far as I'm concerned.
The silly thing is reading in this article on BBC Newsbeat, David actually says that his signing isn't really big news at the moment. However, in the future, it could be seen as a turning point for FIFA gamers. It could actually be. He goes on to say that right now it's not exactly historic, but in 5 years' time, when we look back at this, we'll think, "Wow, they really started something here." Is there a possibility that other football clubs could be getting involved with this?
Maybe, just to jump on the bandwagon, I guess. But again, I don't see what value you get out of it. What's the difference to join a football club to just join in eSports organisation? So we're going to start, and I might look at a football team, see if we can get a football team, an actual football team. Sunday itself, I don't get it over. I really don't. It's just a little bit kind of mystifying to me. Just like watching football, you're necessarily going to tune in and watch someone play FIFA because they're good at it and because the sport was big. I really don't get what it's achieving. But maybe I'm just being around narrow-minded.
I think it's either going to be, we're going to look back at it and say this is the first one that was signed and this was where it began, or this is just going to be some complete irregularity and it's never going to happen again. It's going to be one or the other. This isn't going to be like a slow process. It's going to be either this guy is the first and it just shoots off, or he's the only one and it'll never happen again, and it was an absolute disaster. So I think it's got to be two polar opposites.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
I will just bring this up quickly because I thought it was quite amusing. Someone put this in the chat. It was a Daily Mail article about Arma 3 being used to train ISIS fighters.
See that.
And the title is, "This video game that allows you to play as an ISIS fighter slaughtering Westerners. Islamists give away combat simulator in bid to recruit children and young men."
Oh my dear lord.
I just put that on the stream quickly just so you can see that.
The world's gone fucking mad, though. It's crazy to think, like, it's just out of madness. It really is.
Yeah.
But oh well.
There you go.
You're right. Okay, guys. Well, I think that does wrap up. Sorry, I'm just watching the stream as well because you've just put the article on. That does wrap up the eSports show this week, which is Phoenix UK. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. We will have next week, we will have an Epic LAN dedicated show, which will talk about all the eSports at Epic LAN. So that'll be StarCraft 2, that'll be Dota 2, and of course CSGO. And we'll have phone-ins next week as well from various people who want to ask their questions for the panel. And also we'll have another panelist as well. I believe I'm going to try and tie in Crossy or Blanks next week. So that'll be another person to add on to our show. So hopefully people enjoy it. Don't forget you can still get involved throughout the week. Just tweet out #PhoenixUK and obviously help support us. The video on demand will be on YouTube channel, which is Epic LAN UK on YouTube, I believe. And that's about it, really. So, Sonny, any final thoughts from you today?
33 seconds of video is my only thought.
33 seconds of video at the end, yeah?
We're off. And we got on.
Yeah? Okay. And Mick, any final thoughts from you today?
No, I think I'm good. I think we're good. Hopefully it wasn't too bad, but next week I'm sure it'll be even better.
Well, yeah, but next week, obviously being Epic LAN related, it'll be banter filled. It will be banter filled. I'm sure we'll get Emmy on next week. I'm sure he can give his opinion and voice it and say that we're all
he can
really
be the bottom
crap.
guy this time.
He can be the bottom guy this time, yeah. He could be down there on the bottom of the screen. What a lovely guy. So, yeah, thank you very much, guys, for all your time tonight. So, and hopefully everyone else has enjoyed it.
Peace.
Peace.